Fitzgerald just hop onto this call, and he is one of my favorite people in the world. So shout out to Chris.
Cool. So I've been good. I've been doing a lot of traveling the last few weeks, getting around the United States for some personal stuff. Other than that, I've been helping our return to home person we just hired try to get, return to home off the ground in Oakland, and try to see if we can get everything different languages and make sure that we're connected with way more people than we have in the past. So
amazing. And Donnell, for the folks that don't know you, would you mind introducing yourself and telling folks where you're from and what you do?
Sure. Hi guys, I am Donnell Randolph. I am the HOF coordinator for Oakland Animal Services in Oakland, California. And I'm also a facilitator at the Cal Animals Emerging Leaders Program for 2022.
Like a boss. And Josh, I didn't ask you to introduce yourself earlier. Would you mind unmuting and introducing yourself to the group as well?
Yeah, I'm Josh. I'm the Pet Support Services Manager for the Animal Rescue League of Iowa here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Thanks, Josh. And for folks that are just jumping onto the call, welcome in. We're going to have an amazing presentation a little later by Dr. Sara Pizano. But right now, we're just warming the room up, and we're checking on our colleagues around the country. So how about Kathy from Canada? Because this is an international call. I saw your blood pressure go up.
Yeah, I'm not in your country, dude.
Well, you're in my community, okay? This is our
Yes,
community. So Kathy, how are things going in Canada?
They're going really well, although we had a really big storm here a few weeks ago in Ontario. So a lot of people in our national capital, Ottawa, had no power for a week, which, was interesting. And then Humane Canada had a lovely conference a few weeks back in the beautiful city of Banff, Alberta. It was lovely. So yeah, it's going good.
Kathy, let's popcorn this. Pick on somebody else.
Oh, all right. I shall pick on Mary Flores.
Hey there. Hello from Tucson, Arizona. I'm not with a shelter. I'm with an organization called Soul Dog Lodge and Training Center, and we support other nonprofits that have that need animal support as well as human support. Our mission is to keep dogs in their homes with the people who love them. And so I appreciate this call so much. We're still kind of in that area where we're looked at as an animal organization, but yet we also support people. And I've gotten so many ideas about how to get that out there and have people, general public, understand what we do. So thank you to everybody. And thank you to Bobby, of course.
Mary, share, you're all about community, you're all about family. Share with everybody how many grandkids you have.
Oh, grandkids. I have 8 grandkids and 1 great grandson.
Amazing. And you still make time for these calls, folks. So when you're telling me people are like, I ain't got time for this, Mary Flores got 8 grandkids and a great grandbaby. Tell them to hop onto these calls, okay?
Absolutely, everybody. You can always make time for this call and all the collaboration and all the support that it brings.
And I think we also might have, thanks, Mary, another first of someone coming in. And here's another person. You could have 8 grandbabies, a great grandbaby, or you could be in the freaking hospital bed and still be coming on this call. Hope, how are you doing? Unmute and say hi and introduce yourself to everyone, please, from your hospital bed.
Hi, everybody. My name's Hope Winograd, and I've started a veterinary nonprofit. I had back surgery, which caused a foot drop, which caused need for a hip replacement, which was last Thursday. And I can't, when you have surgery on Thursday, they don't put you in rehab until Monday or Tuesday. So I'm sitting in the hospital room in Atlanta. And what's really cool is when you email people from your hospital room, Atlanta is started the Center for Global Health Initiative. And when you email people from your hospital room and say, well, that's where I want to have my nonprofit based out of, they respond to you really quickly. And so I'm very excited because after I recover from this, hopefully my veterinary nonprofit, to make sure we have veterinarians in the future, and then we stop this economic youth in Asia and wind up with veterinary medical insurance on adoptions, etc. I will be operating out of the Center for Global Health Initiatives in downtown Atlanta. So people take you seriously when you do stuff while you're in the hospital.
Sounds good, Hope. You have an extra shot of that delicious hospital Jello for me, all right?
Thank you.
Good to hear from you. And I think something else that's really exciting when you're trying to get things off the ground is having a little bit of money to do it, right? So we're going to be having Maddie's Fund actually announcing their grant giveaway winners in just a second. Irene is going to take care of that for us. But before we do that, just to see if there is, I'm going to open up the floor for national updates. So if there's any other national organizations that would like to give an announcement, now is the time.
Hey guys, it's Bethany from Best Friends. I've missed the past couple Mondays, so I thought I'd just pop in and remind folks that our conference is coming up in a couple weeks. It's July 7th, and so I will stick the registration in the chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Bethany. I'm excited to see you there. I'm going to be presenting with Allison, our very own Allison from this call, about curating calls like this. So please come join us if you're there. We'd love to see all of you in person. All right, Irene, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Bobby. It looks like everybody's just excited to get to the announcement. So here we go. And some of you might actually already know from Friday that for the month of May, we are giving away $5,000 for the first time. Our winner is Jim Keller for Homeward Pet Adoption Center.
Let's see if Jim
is Jim on the call.
I'm looking up the name and the participants. Do not see Jim on the call, but I'm sure he's going to be they are going to be very excited about this.
I don't
Is
think
anyone from his organization?
I'm here from Homeward Pet.
Yay! Karen.
Hi. Thank you guys so much. This is like such a shock. Oh my gosh. I saw it on Friday and I thought, man, we could really use that. We just re-upped a lease on our current building and we're looking at doing a giant remodel. This is an amazing opportunity for us to have it.
Karen, take a little bit and brag about your organization. What do you do? How long has it been around? What are you all excited about? Tell us all the things.
I'm the clinic manager at Homeward Pet. Jim is our operations director. We were established in 1990. We have an actual shelter. We're limited intake. Pre-COVID, we were just about 2,000 animals adopted. We're below that right now. We're reestablishing a lot of things, bringing finally more animals back into the shelter, which is exciting because that means more volunteers back into the shelter. So we're getting there and we just do dogs and cats.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations, Karen. And then when you tell Jim about this, you can be like, hey, by the way, we got $5,000 for our clinic, right? You're going to sneak one in on them?
No doubt. Loving that.
Yeah. And can I just emphasize that Jim had on the entry form had mentioned that he has conflicts with this scheduled time. And so he's been watching on demand, or they've been watching on demand. So you just want everybody to know that you can still win $5,000 by watching on demand.
Wow.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. We're so excited.
Congratulations. And shout out to Irene for that amazing transition, just talking about how you can watch this on demand. Absolutely. Sounds good. All right, folks. Well, let's get into it. Dr. Sara Pizano, the floor is yours. We're going to be talking about Open Door Veterinary Collective. This is something that I personally am very, very invested in myself. After moving to my new role at Humane Rescue Alliance, community medicine is something that is a huge emphasis and a huge focus for us as we focus on keeping pets out of our shelters and with the families that love them. The real mindset of creating sustainable models is the only way that we're going to be able to accomplish this successfully. So Dr. P, over to you.
Thank you so much, Bobby, and welcome everyone. And Bobby, just remind me, because you know me, I can talk 5 minutes or 5 hours. I want to have lots of time for questions. So how long is my whole block?
You are the pregame, the intermission, and the main event. So you got the rest of this hour. So you curate it the way you would like
the
to.
halftime show and everything.
All the things. I'll go get my pom-poms as you talk.
Okay, so I think so the presentation is about a half an hour, and it's going to answer all the basic questions, and then I wanted to leave a half an hour for you all to ask questions, because I know there will be a lot of questions. So Bobby, you could just cue me at 1:30, and I have already sent Allison the link, so she'll be putting them in the chat. She already did because she's so fabulous. Open Door Consults.org is the website to look at more information or contact us and look into a mentorship. So I'm going to share my screen. I'd appreciate it if everyone just closes their eyes and don't judge me for my really messy desktop, and I will get started. Okay, so we are talking about, well, first I want to say that Open Door is the name of the model. Open Door Veterinary Collective is the nonprofit training program, and Team Shelter, Open Door, University of California, and University of Florida are all part of Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. So hashtags thanks to Maddie's, of course. And I am now officially also on the veterinary ambassador on the Open Door Veterinary Collective team. So I do training and teaching, advocating and talks like this to all different kinds of groups. Allison is going to put this awesome blog that we did recently with Haas in the chat. So if you'd like to share this story with anybody, please do, especially for-profit veterinarians. And that link is just a great summary blog about the Open Door model. So there's 2 things I want you to know overarching about Open Door. One is we believe that everyone should have access to veterinary care. And the second thing is we believe our staff and veterinarians should be paid appropriately and competitively. I will tell you, I got chills thinking about it. I just visited a practice that is just starting out. They're very excited about the Open Door model, but they're scrappy and they're making it happen. And they shared with me, well, the vet said they would not take a salary right now. And because if we have clients who can't pay, we all chip in and help. So that is just, it's heartbreaking and heartwarming, but we've said to them, there's a better way. We want you to look into the Open Door model, because we promise you, if we all work together in an organized way, that we can all make a good living and provide access to care. So to begin with, I think in the last, especially year or two, when I started getting more involved with Open Door, I have to tell you that I have been very just devastated about the financial state of most Americans, and in particular pet owners, and the access to care issue, and the recent, well, not so recent reports that have been coming out are sobering. So this is not just a problem affecting people who are living in poverty or socioeconomically disadvantaged. This is 1 out of 4 households. There are accessibility issues. We know that the veterinary industry and private practice veterinarians are really struggling as well. In 2018, this report came out. This link will be in the chat. And I tell you what an eye-opener. But this is what's most upsetting, very sobering, that 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 29 million pets are in families on government assistance. So that was in 2018. So that was pre-COVID. So imagine what this report would look like now. We all know that the state of access to care is even more dire than it was when this report came out. But if you are working in this area, I would encourage you to read this report. It's about 100 pages, but chock full of information, great information for you to have for a donor story for your municipalities and explaining to them the need and how we need to target and focus. You also have heard of, and I'm so happy that there are our social services peeps on the phone call today, because we know that from the research from Meals on Wheels that their clients were feeding their food to their pets and they were going without. And that's how Animeals was started. So they've done a lot of research around this as well. And if you look on the Open Door consults.org website, there's a section that says research and resources, and there's all kinds of different social services and the integration, the issues, and all of those things. Lots of great research going on, and some of which we've been involved in. But in any event, like I said, financially fragile means I cannot pay a $2,000 emergency bill within 30 days. And look at these numbers. It is not just about poverty. It is about 20% of high income earners that are considered financially fragile. So basically that says to me that Americans are more consumers than being able to manage their finances. But be that as it may, this is where we are, and we need to deal with the ramifications of this, especially when people cannot get credit. And so care credit, which I am not a fan of because the interest rate is so high, many people are declined care credit. So we had to look at other options, or the founders had to look at other options. And we don't have to go through every one of these little pieces, but you all know how this happens. Veterinarians have the reputation of being generous and caregivers. And so if they deny care for a pet because of money, they will have a bad reputation. People will go online and smear them. They will tell their friends the veterinarian didn't care. The animal doesn't get the care they need. They might be forced to surrender. All of these things, it's just a vicious cycle. Now, if I'm working in private practice, I'm getting burnt out. My staff is getting tired of being beat up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just this vicious cycle, this merry-go-round that we have to get off. So here's what happened. The founders, several of them come from the old Humane Alliance model in Asheville, which is now the ASPCA Spay-Neuter Alliance. And they set out to prove, there was 4 partners, one of them is a veterinarian. They said, we acknowledge that private practice veterinarians are complaining that we are unfair competition as a nonprofit. So we are going to set out to prove that we can have a for-profit veterinary clinic and expand access to care. So Community Pet Care Clinic in Toledo, Ohio was the first one. Asheville, North Carolina was the second one. And we're here to tell you, works like a charm. Net profiting, no different than private practice, but better yet, we believe has potential to far exceed the net profit from private practice. So a benchmark for private practice is with 3 doctors, Monday through Friday, is somewhere around 17 to 20%. And we do believe that there is potential for higher. If you're a 1-doctor hospital, you're looking at a 5 to 7% net profit. But the point is, and for all you nonprofits, this is the message. Forever, we have tried to pay for everything for everyone. And that is not a sustainable model. We're tired. And it's a lot of work that we don't have to do if we set up systems for success, no different than the sheltering system, the archaic sheltering system. Right now we're thinking, hey, we got to set ourselves up for success and self-rehoming and foster care and all of those things. So no different. So the first clinic that we had as a client was paying into that hospital about $500,000. And within the first year, they were netting 30%, $350,000. So this is the real deal. This is a sustainable model, and that's what we need to create the solutions, because we've proven we can't do it alone. We know that because just by definition, there's only about 2,000 nonprofit hospitals, yet there's 30,000 private practice for-profit hospitals. So it's quite easy to see like the nonprofits can't solve this problem alone. So I'm going to go through some high-level ideas about why this program works. Here on the left are kind of the high-level things, but this model works with a nonprofit hospital or a for-profit hospital. And we have mentorships now that they are a combination in person and online. And we do all different kinds of training. So it could be soup to nuts from start to finish, or maybe it's just a piece of this model that you want to implement. But one of the first things to remember is there is a lot of shame, no matter what salary you're making. If you go to the veterinarian and the veterinarian, your pet, maybe it's an emergency or what have you, the bill is bigger than you can afford. There is a lot of shame around not being able to afford what my pet needs. I love my pet, but now I'm making a financial decision, or I don't have the money. I mean, that's a really difficult place for somebody to be in. And the founder of Vet Billing, which is there on the right, vetbilling.com, was in that situation, and she couldn't pay her bill. And the problem is, obviously, when you go to the vet, it's a fee for service. So if you don't have a credit card, you have to pay cash in full. Most hospitals don't have payment plans because it was historically too cumbersome, or they weren't getting repaid. So Vet Billing was created to bridge that gap, to take that burden off the private practice. There's no interest rate. It's small monthly installments. And I'm going to talk a little bit about more about that, because that is part of the big picture. And to me, a very significant part of the Open Door model, financial support options. How many of us can just go buy a house for cash? Of course we can't, or cars for that matter. We pay over time. Right now, and when I said 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, the majority of that demographic are millennials. And they are used to Zelling and all those, I think PayPal's out of style now, but all those ways that they can pay for their phone, but they demand to pay over time. So number one, the pricing structure is competitive, more in line with a nonprofit hospital as opposed to a for-profit. Number two, the vet billing is outsourced. So the payment plans are outsourced, and they have anywhere between an 87% and a 97% repayment rate. So the amazing thing is, when you think about a vet thinking, well, I want to try to help this rescue group or this client, I'm going to discount that service 10%. If vet billing is recouping 7%, that means they're only losing 3% if somebody doesn't pay back. But chances are people are going to pay back. The Stay Together funds is another idea. So out of every single exam fee, $1 is put into a fund, and each veterinarian has a discretionary fund to use to piece together how the clinic might get paid for what the pet needs. Dentals are a huge thing, and you all know we get all these animals in shelters with horrible dental disease. Why? Because just a dental cleaning under anesthesia is sometimes cost prohibitive for people, or they didn't know their pet's teeth needed to be cleaned. And by the time we see them, they are really severe, and therefore the dentals cost more. There's extractions, there's antibiotics with infections and all of those things. So the dental plans are really cool. So there's two options. You could pay after the dental through the vet billing payment plan, or you could prepay. So you pay into your dental plan for your pet so that it's not a large chunk of money all at once. Hold on one second. And so how I want you to think of this model in terms of the payment, the clinic is getting paid for services, but it might not all be from the client. Now, the client does have to pay something. So the client would pay most or all of it, and a lot of clients pay all of it, no problem. But for the ones who can't, then it's pieces. So it may be the discretionary fund from Stay Together. It may be part of a payment plan. It may be a nonprofit voucher with a partner in the area. And then of course, incremental care. So veterinarians, and certainly shelter veterinarians, we're scrappy, and we've been doing incremental care forever. So when we go to vet, or when we went to vet school, I hope it's changing now, we were always taught the gold standard, right? So you do the X-ray, because how do you know what exactly is happening? Incremental care is, geez, is the treatment plan is the pet critical, first of all? Is the treatment plan going to change depending on the diagnostics? Or can I delay the diagnostics and treat symptomatically and see how the pet does? And oftentimes the pet gets better. So incremental care is a big part of this. This is Baloo, typical kitten fracture. The emergency clinic recommended orthopedic surgery that was a couple $1,000s. Dr. Quinn ended up splinting Baloo, put him in a crate, and he healed, thank God. But if he didn't heal, we would have then done an amputation as opposed to the orthopedic care. So incremental care, big, huge piece, and veterinarians have been doing that since the beginning of time. Very important for the veterinarians to help in the prioritization of those diagnostics. So we make sure that if there's something to be done, we're using the client's money in the most effective way. The third thing is financial goals. And one of the things the AVMA says is that private practices let at least $60,000 walk out the door, meaning undercharging, forgetting to charge, missed appointments, not doing reminders, all of those types of things. So it's a very strict financial plan where we do a lot of follow-up, weekly coaching over this finance scheduling, and has to do with, for example, inventory. So a lot of there's a baseline amount of inventory in terms of pharmaceuticals at the clinic, but most of it is done online at the online pharmacy or through another pharmacy, GoodRx, that you can get 80% discount. It's all about helping clients save money in a variety of ways. And that's part of that financial support options as well. And then efficiencies. So again, we talked a little bit about telemedicine at the beginning of this. Can we do a telemedicine recheck on a pet so that the client, maybe they're struggling with transportation or childcare or something? Can we do a recheck on Zoom or online somehow, optimizing technology? And then when I've done per diem at our clinics, boy, I tell you, 30-40% no-shows, even though we did all the reminder calls and the texts and all of those things, which is really frustrating because people have been calling trying to get an appointment and they can't get in for weeks, and then somebody doesn't show up. So maybe we have drop-offs that day, more drop-offs maybe, and I like to be double or triple booked because I know it's all going to flush out. Another one, which I think veterinarians is a little bit hard for us to give up control, is really using technicians for as much as we possibly can. We do actually schedule a lot of technician appointments. So maybe it's recheck blood work or just things like anal glands or, refilling medication, and the vet checks them really quickly, something like that, but really utilizing technicians to their fullest. And then of course, our safety net partners, and this is where One Health, social services, for-profit clinics, nonprofit organizations, all of this comes together, because in my 30+ year career, there has just been this incredible, very sad chasm between shelter medicine and animal welfare and the private practice industry. And we really want to bridge that gap. So, and then of course, our nonprofit partners. So if a for-profit clinic that did the Open Door model then there's all kinds of partnerships that could happen with the nonprofit. For example, in Asheville, the Asheville Humane Society does $150 for a medical voucher, up to $150 when a pet needs some sort of medical care. So partnerships, we can, collaboration, we cannot emphasize enough. We are really lucky. Oh, sorry, it's the next slide. Let me just go to, oh geez, sorry about that. Hold on a second. This one. So we are so lucky in Toledo to have a graduate student in social work who is interested in veterinary medicine and animal welfare. And so the graduate students rotate, so we don't have to pay for them. And they are there to help both the clients and the staff. So that's really amazing too. And again, this is a partnership that doesn't cost us anything. So when we think about the benefits of this, I can promise you, for the veterinarian, I remember seeing a dog that was so incredibly painful. His ears were oozing pus, and the owner said, so I said, okay, basics. The exam fee is $38. The ear packs are whatever, the pain medication, etc. So it came to $150, and the owner said, I have $40. And I said, okay, we're going to figure this out. And most of that should happen on the phone at the time of the appointment or online, but be that as it may, this is when it happened, is with the veterinarians. I said, we're going to figure it out. Let me get my staff in here to talk to you about it. So we were able, so the client paid $40, the Humane Society paid a piece of it, the Stay Together Fund paid a piece of it. So remember, the clinic gets paid, but we spread a very wide net to make that happen. So two things would have happened. Dr. Pizano's method, I would not recommend, because I would have had to pay for that client. So that's not sustainable, and probably why I'm not in private practice, right? So and that's what's happening in that clinic I told you about. They're paying out of their own pocket. So not a sustainable, I wouldn't recommend it, not a sustainable model. What if I said to that client, sorry, that $40 just covered the exam fee. We can't help you, see you later. I promise you I wouldn't have slept. I promise you the staff would have been upset. The techs would have been upset. We saw how painful the dog was. But for me, being able to say, we got you, no problem. Let's work this out. Whatever, we're going to work it out, whatever that means. So let's work it out. And having that as a veterinarian and medical team and clinic, to me, is priceless. And that is what I think attracts people to this model, not just vets, but staff and clients. There's clients that pay for everything, could even, donate and pay for other clients. They love to come to the Open Door clinics because they love that it's a clinic that gives back and makes sure that people and pets in need have help. One thing I didn't tell you about those dental plans too is that one of the benefits is increased care, for example. So there was a hospital in Pennsylvania that increased dentals by 30% because they had those options for payment plan. So collaborative efforts, absolutely endless. And then I know some of you think, this is so amazing, this is fabulous, but we're having a very severe veterinary shortage that doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. Our veterinarians are booked out for weeks. They don't want us to, we can't even get in there. This is, you're asking vets to do more. So you're right about a lot of those things. There's 18 open veterinary positions and 1 veterinarian looking for them. I think I read for technicians, it's 11 positions and 1 technician looking. So this would be great if all veterinarians would do this, but we're not asking veterinarians or clinics to do more. We're saying your clients are leaving without the care they need. So you can enhance access to care and increase your bottom line so everybody wins. It is true that there is more need than capacity, it seems right now. But again, as hopefully the veterinary industry wakes up, I happen to be of the opinion that the industry has been incredibly not been aware that in 1985, the number of graduating vets was 50-50 male and female, and now it's 90% female. And these are veterinarians coming out of school, 26 years old, 30 years old. So this is when they're going to get married and have babies, and they leave practices because they're not provided with support, with maybe a flexible schedule. We have not catered to that younger generation as that's happened in the last 20 years. So this shortage is no surprise to me, and we need to pay attention to that. So how am I doing on time? 6 minutes over. Well, I started a little bit after, but that is the end of the official presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I haven't been watching the chat, so if there's questions, Bobby, have you been watching the chat?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, I'd love to just hold some space for Marlo that shared her own lived experience about putting her pet down. So Dr. P, if you want to read that and just respond, I think it's a beautiful sentiment.
So Marlo said, I was told when I put my senior dog down last September, it's better to be a week premature than a week too late.
Well, I think if you scroll up a little bit,
Okay.
she just talks about when we talk about the element of
Okay.
shame.
Oh, thanks, Marla. So, right, so that's a great question. And I think that this is, so, and I appreciate you sharing that story and sentiment with us. When I got out of vet school, I worked at North Shore Animal League, which is financially unlimited, essentially. And I left there thinking, just because we can do something like a diagnostic or a treatment, just because it's available, doesn't mean we have to do it. And so, Marlo, I want you to be at peace with the decisions that you made about your dog, because let me tell you, I'm a vet, I've been through it and questioned myself, and I had to stop myself and say, I need to give myself grace here. We make the right decisions because we love our pets. So don't doubt yourself that, if you would have spent this or done that, I think that you have to think of the big picture. You have to think of their quality of life. But I hope nobody, and if anybody ever makes you feel that way at the vet, like, you have to do the blood work, or I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's not appropriate. I don't want anybody to be treated like that. So that's why we talk about this shame around finances, but it's also about decisions, about what I think is right for my pet. And so Marlo might have to ask herself, well, what if it didn't have to do with the $6,000? Would I have done it? Maybe she wouldn't have done it. And that would have been the right decision, right? Because of the quality of life of her dog. So Marlo, I want you to just be at peace with it. You made the right decisions out of love.
Marlo, I think your mic might be off.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm at peace with it. My husband's not quite yet. We had the same thing happen when our kitten got hemobartonella, or feline anemia. It was some rare tick disease. At 6 months old, I drained my entire savings account, all the money I made in high school. This was early in college. And the same thing, I asked for guidance from the vet and didn't really get a clear answer on what was a practical decision. So that's definitely something I really hope you guys can help with training.
Yeah, yes and no, right? Because pets are people, right? They're living beings. And so there's so many times that we don't know if they're going to get better or not. Like, the only way to know is to try. But at the same time, we all have to be realistic in this unrealistic veterinary industry, which is pay for service. So imagine if we had to go get an x-ray for ourselves or an MRI or a hip surgery, right? Like, I mean, and had to pay for it out of pocket, right? We'd have a lot less procedures, wouldn't we? So it's the industry that's really, I think, created this, very sad, the cost to provide veterinary care has far escalated above the rate of inflation. So that's really the problem without an effective healthcare system. So yeah, I appreciate all that, but yeah, sometimes we can say, you know what, no matter what you spend, this is still not going to end well. And sometimes we just don't know. I mean, there's no way to know unless you try.
Thanks, Dr. P. I want to go to this comment from Julie Townsend, because I think it's a really fascinating. It says, we started a program to take referrals from local emergency clinics. Besides being inundated with referrals, the clients have zero funds after the assessment. And so, Dr. P, can you touch on, because I think in animal welfare, we typically do this. We look at ourselves as a last resort, and we typically are seeing people referred to us, which, the ones that can afford it are probably staying there. And we're sort of getting well, if you can't afford it, go to the shelter. Can you talk about what your coalition does, how it sort of shifts that mindset?
Okay, so I think of it in two buckets, right? One bucket is like the shepherd. She didn't have the money a month ago, so she didn't come in. So now it is crisis. So we're trying to enhance that access to care, to see pets earlier and to see pets when they're healthy, to see pets before they get critical or seriously ill or seriously painful. So that's to me the most important thing. And then two is there's also always questions about, like, are our private veterinarians really angry about this model? And number one, that's why the founders set it up as a for-profit to prove, right? So it could be either way. But what we found is the local veterinarians, at least, in the last 5 years, are referring to the open door clinics because they know there's those financial support options. Now, then you have the situations where there is an emergency, right? The pet was healthy, it got hit by a car, it goes to the emergency clinic. So there are, we try to piece together like what can be done. But what if it's, really, needs like Mayo Clinic level, then no, we might not be able to help because we might not be able to piece together those funds. I think emergencies are really hard. The hardest orthopedics are right now in our two hospitals very difficult for us. We don't have an orthopedic section yet. Dr. Denise Katz is outside of Indy. She's creating sort of an orthopedic specialty practice for animal welfare, but that orthopedic piece is one that is difficult and that we haven't figured out yet. There are some, Dr. Jeff in Boise, Idaho, that does orthopedics, thank goodness, at his shelter, but boy, those orthopedics are the toughest part. So I would say that we're more likely to be able to help, but we cannot help 100% because if it's a $4,000 or $5,000 bill, or it needs advanced orthopedics, and we can't help the client find funding, that may end up in a euthanasia, unfortunately. We have a handout with all these different options, grants, the One Heart, which funds heartworm treatment for individuals and things like that. And that handout looks different in every community, right? Because there's different organizations, maybe there's community foundations and things. Maybe there is an emergency fund with, a shelter or something that can help. But those are tough ones when it's a all of a sudden emergency. But we are really trying hard to get people, and that's the dentals. That's why we want the dentals in it. We want more people to come to the vet so we can prevent those problems from escalating, or any problems from happening.
Thanks, Dr. P. I'd love to go to Allison's question in the chat regarding specifically spay, neuter, and mobile clinics. So I think that's a lot of what shelter is sort of the first iteration of community medicine, or these mobile clinics that people are doing. So what are your thoughts on if, like, that's as broad as people want to think right now? And could that be successful in this, or do you recommend expanding to broader services?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'm glad you brought it up because, you know, when the Open Door model was created, it was like, here it is, here's the box, here's the template, but we actually have our first mobile client. And so I guess how I feel is that spay neuter, remember way back in the old days in the 80s, before spay neuter is like really a thing. Now it's like most, you know, I think between 80 and 90% of owned pets are spayed and neutered. So people want to spay and neuter. And so for the most part, that's not the emergency that it was years ago when 20 million animals or 30 million animals were going into shelters. We're down to 4.3 million, about 300,000 or 400,000 euthanasias. But we're seeing, just a note on the spay neuter high volume. The Open Door Clinic doesn't do the same spay neuter high volume as, for example, a spay neuter clinic, a nonprofit spay neuter clinic. The financial model doesn't work in that, but you could have a program at your clinic, right? And we have recommended that. I just am recommending that right now for a community. I believe the access to care piece is probably eclipsed the spay neuter piece, because the spay neuter, and I never thought I'd be saying this, but the spay neuter is not an emergency unless it's a PIO, right? But the access to care has far eclipsed. It's really a crisis of animals just getting basic medical care. And that also reminds me to say, the other part of this model is, for example, if you have a spay neuter clinic in the area, the PIO doesn't go to Open Door where it will cost more. The PIO just goes to the spay neuter clinic and it'll be a spay neuter, right? So that's another way to partner and keep everybody like who's doing what and who can do what.
What a time, right? Dr. P, you said you thought you would never say something like that, but it really is a big issue.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to Cynthia's question, because I think it really is sort of a shift on the lens of this conversation. So Cynthia, as being sort of a safety net charity that works to fund surgeries for folks that can't afford it, what would you recommend for her when she's trying to partner with other local clinics and potentially get them to convert to this model?
I would say first, you know, like give them the blog, because it's a, you know, fairly, it's not like a household term yet, like spatula. So I would say give them the blog, because it's such a great summary of what it is, and really tell them like, listen, this benefits everybody. This isn't, we're not asking you to do more. We're not asking you to get paid less. It's just a shift in the way, you know, that you're going to help people with that financial piece is, I think, the biggest transition for them. Because when you talk to vets, they're like, yeah, I do incremental care. Well, yeah, we watch the finances. I mean, but we get down and deep with that section. But I think telling them this benefits you is really important. They can also, we did a webinar, sorry, Allison, I forgot to send you the webinar link, but maybe somebody from Haas could put the link in there. We did a webinar recently and just kind of talked about it. So you can share the webinar link and the blog link, and certainly contact us at opendoorconsults.org. But we'd be happy to talk to the veterinarians and just let them know what this means, what this model is.
Thanks, Dr. P. I'm going to call on Jennifer Williams. Jennifer, would you mind unmuting and asking your question? I feel like I've been talking too much. I should be calling on all of you to talk for yourselves.
Jennifer doesn't have a mic. She's sorry.
You want to read her question, Dr. P?
Oh, sure. I got to scroll up here. Do you think this model would be successful as slightly specialized, like focused on large dog breeds, or is it best to keep the scope of care broad? Oh, that's a great question. No, broad, because all pets, there's access to care issues for everybody: puppies, kittens, dogs, cats, all breeds. This is a people issue, so we don't want to limit it to just large dog breeds. When I think about large dog breeds, I want them highly subsidized for spay neuter, So we drive down, especially targeted, so we drive down shelter intake. But no, this needs to be, access to care is a universal issue. But thank you for that question.
And it looks like Hope brought up something a little earlier about scratch pay. Dr. P, are you familiar with scratch
Yeah,
pay? And if you
so-
are, would you mind talking
yeah.
about it?
Well, scratch pay is similar to care credit, but I think it's a more economical way to get some sort of credit, scratch pay, and you can get approved quickly. So, but remember, 45 million Americans are credit invisible. So they're not even going to qualify, but that is, yes, that's one of the options on our menu, if you will. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's say, Dr. P, I am a small shelter in Texas. You know, I think doing very basic spay neuter for animals that are in my shelter, don't have really any external facing medical care yet. This is all very exciting to me. This is something that I really want to do, but I don't even know where to start. Is this a model you would recommend to someone in that situation, or is there other things that you would tell them to do first?
So I would say, I mean, I think everybody agrees, like the safety net piece and keeping animals out of shelter is priority. So if my veterinarian can be involved in doing that, first of all, you need at least one full-time veterinarian. But if you're in a small shelter and you have one full-time veterinarian, you could do the open door model and you could do it 3 days a week or something like that. But my main point is safety net is priority, keeping them out, and shelter pets are next. So if they do come in, we don't want, and we work with a lot of shelters right now that are doing this. So the shelter animals are not priority. So they have a higher length of stay because I'm trying to make this revenue from my clinic. That no, that's not appropriate. So the shelter, and we always want to focus on short lengths of stay. So if you can do safety net and your short lengths of stay, then yes, and you can do pieces of this, right? And also depending on what state you're in, you do have to look at who can treat, owns pets, and all of that. So definitely look into that depending on where you are.
Yeah, that's something that I've working in DC and with all these Eastern states, I'm learning so much about these veterinary licenses and how you literally walk across the street and you can't practice in some places.
Yeah, I apologize on behalf of my industry. Sorry about that.
Well, Dr. P, this has been incredibly informative to me. Eliza shared the blog in the chat. I know we still have a few more minutes. So if anybody does have a question, now is the time. So feel free to drop it in the chat. But Dr. P, I also wanted to toss it to you. If there's anything sort of in closing you would like to share, or any other thoughts.
I think just to me, this, the reason I wanted to join Open Door Veterinary Collective and have them be part of Maddie's Million Pet Challenge is because I sincerely believe that this has to be woven into the fabric of the veterinary industry. There's no other option, right? Because what's happening is animals are not getting care. So to me, it's just the most amazing, sustainable model. And again, I want to encourage all you nonprofits, get it out of your head that you have to do everything to everybody. And it might be somebody on this call was saying that they were working in a neighborhood or with a program, and the owner said, "Thank you so much for asking me to pay $10 because that makes me have dignity. Like people are just like handing out, it's good for me to be part of this. I get chills even thinking about it. So please stop. We are all card-carrying members of the Control Freak Club, and we want to let's just do it all and do everything, but cast that net wide, because that saying, strength in unity. It sounds corny, but it's so true. When we cast that net wide, we really, I feel, can make this a standard model in the veterinary industry.
I love that so much, Dr. P. When we talk about sort of diversity, equity, inclusion, race, equity, inclusion, work, animal welfare, and getting rid of the concept of saviorism, I mean, what a better way to get rid of that than being able to mutually support each other, right? It's like people want to help. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to do. Something else that I will also throw out there, because I think oftentimes we are so busy within our shelters, just trying to get the work done. And we have this sort of this expectation from the large funders in animal welfare, right? So the charities, the Petco Loves, the Maddies, where we're like, if this is the shift, maybe they should put all their money into safety net. But when you look at how big the problem is, even if all of the biggest 5 or 6 funders in animal welfare put all of their money into it, we would not even begin to solve the problem. And so if we do not implement programs like this and models like this, we're never going to really be able to fix this problem. And that's my personal opinion. Do you have thoughts on that, Dr. P?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of puzzle pieces, and we all chip in, right? So, and that's what this is, thinking about a puzzle, like, and I'm not the whole picture. It's like we're all a piece of it. And when we begin to tap into that social services and marrying that, and again, like us trying to keep pets with their people, I mean, we've just done such a disservice as we continue to separate people and pets. You know, we also have to think about, I remember a commissioner saying to me, oh, this is like welfare for pets. Why would I pay for, you know, somebody's pet? They shouldn't have a pet. Well, all right, so tell that to the 29 million Americans on government assistance. Like it benefits all of us, because if you're part of a subsidy, and you know, maybe like there's a lot of municipalities that subsidize spay neuter, that benefits them because it decreases intake when you do targeted strategic spay neuter. So it's not just about welfare for someone else, it helps everyone.
I love it. Well, as you can see in the chat, everybody is so appreciative, Dr. Pizano. This has been amazing. Look forward to always having you on these calls. If anybody needs more information, Eliza and Allison have dropped the links in the chat to webinars and other things. But we have one last announcement from the Maddie's family that we wanted to make for this group before you all hop off. One of the things that we have really been talking about is language and collaboration. And we know we've had 2 separate calls for a very long time, which was our Monday call and our Friday call. Monday being the shelter and rescue support, Friday being the animal welfare leadership call. And that has not sat well with us for a very long time. You know why? Because you are all leaders and we should all be in one room together. So I'm super excited to announce that Maddie's is going to be sending out an announcement likely later this afternoon that we're actually going to combine these calls into one mega call. And the reason for that is because we want everybody in the room to have a voice. And if we're going to build the future of sheltering, it should be done as a collaborative. Shelly, I want to come over to you from the Maddie's family. Any thoughts on this or anything you'd like to say?
You hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, it should be one call. We've done it, you know, more than 2 years with 2 calls, and it really should be one call. So a survey will be going out to find out what day and time might work best for everyone. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going out to everyone who has registered for the Monday and or Friday calls. So please just take a few moments to take that survey. Let us know what, because I think 5 different, no, maybe 7 different choices that works, you know, with the HOS schedules and the Maddie's Fin schedules, and we'll see if which of those works for everyone else. And again, if you can't attend live, you can attend or watch it on demand. And we're trying to find a time that works across all time zones as well within North America. So.
Thanks, Shelly. So be sure to take that survey. Let us know what day and time works good for all of you. It has been such a pleasure. Dr. P, thank you again. Happy Monday, and thanks to Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, everybody.